At the show's beginning, we are introduced to our heroine Yang, who works for Dingshan Optoelectronics, a light manufacturing company. She arrives late one day and notices the gate is unattended. In a moment of desperation, she decides to jump over to reach her cabin and avoid any repercussions. Unfortunately, Yang is caught by her manager, Miss Liu, who demands to know where she has been. She also hands her a document, asking her to print 20 copies of it. Yang nervously explains that she was only getting coffee for herself. She also obliges to complete the task, but deep down, she's fuming that Miss Liu can't handle such menial work. As the two are talking, the manager suddenly collapses to the ground. A terrified Yang tries her best to revive her, but to no avail. Zhu, the company boss, enters the scene at this critical moment. He is visibly distressed and demands to know who is responsible for his assistant's condition. The crowd quickly points to Yang, saying she must have done something to hurt Miss Liu. Upon hearing this, Zhu angrily declares that Yang will now assume the role of his assistant. He then instructs her to prepare and email all necessary documents for a meeting scheduled in half an hour. Although shocked by the turn of events, our heroine accepts the role and frantically searches her manager's laptop for the required documents. But the task proves to be daunting as numerous similar documents make it difficult to identify the final version. Just then, Zhu sends her a message, reminding her that only 1 minute remains before the clients arrive for the meeting. This sends Yang into a state of panic, and she grabs the first document she finds. Shortly after, Zhu begins his presentation, only to discover an embarrassing error. The document turns out to be a mere draft, and all the clients burst into laughter upon noticing it. After the humiliating meeting, Zhu becomes extremely angry and scolds Yang. He accuses her of making a grave mistake and emphasizes the effort he invested in bringing the clients. As he continues yapping, Zhu realizes it is 6:30 p.m. and abruptly ends the conversation. He then fires Yang on the spot and asks her not to return to the office. Following this, he rushes to the bathroom but finds it under maintenance. Our hero is so desperate that he goes inside the girls' washroom instead, where he mysteriously transforms into a pig. Yang also arrives shortly after and hears noises from one of the cubicles. Upon opening the door, she unexpectedly finds a small pig. She also notices Zhu's shirt and wonders how it ended up here, but she ignores it for now and decides to take the cute pig along with her. At home, Yang's roommate and colleague Sui Sui is surprised to see the pig and jokes about never having eaten ham before. However, Yang firmly states that it's a pet and cannot be killed. The scene then cuts to our heroine carefully bathing the pig. Zhu, who's still in his animal form, internally protests, but she remains oblivious to his true identity. She then examines the pig's gender and discovers that it's male. After the bath, Yang contemplates what to name her new pet. Sui Sui suggests naming him Zhu, as their boss is filthy like a pig. Yang considers it but decides that since the animal is lost, they should call him Losty. Following dinner, she brings Losty to her bed and watches him for a while. She then instructs him to sleep, as she needs to go job hunting tomorrow. As morning arrives, Yang awakens and touches what she expects to be the pig's body. However, she feels something unusual and realizes that the texture is not that of a pig. In a startling transformation, Zhu has reverted from pig to human form. When Yang opens her eyes and sees her boss lying beside her, she screams loudly in shock. But Zhu quickly covers her mouth and promises to explain everything later. He requests her not to jump to conclusions and clarifies that he's not here for any wicked reason. He then asks for clothes to wear, stating he must leave for work urgently. Later, as they arrive at the office together, the staff observe them curiously. Zhu then assigns Yang some work and reminds her about the upcoming meeting. But this only frustrates our heroine, and she questions why she's still being given tasks even though she was fired. Zhu responds that he never keeps those who know his secrets far from his sight and effectively reinstates her. He then announces to everyone that Yang is now his personal assistant, leaving them shocked. Later, as she begins her work, she cannot stop thinking about the previous night. She wonders how Zhu ended up at her house and what happened to Losty. The strange possibility that her boss could have transformed into the pig crosses her mind, but she dismisses it. Shortly after, Zhu once again calls Yang into his cabin. He questions how everyone is gossiping about them being together. He also accuses her of attempting to advance her career by leveraging their situation. Enraged by his words, Yang asserts that she is a loyal employee who has climbed up the corporate ladder through hard work and dedication. She then prepares to leave, but Ju unexpectedly grabs her hand. He requests her to keep the previous night's events a secret and threatens dire consequences if she reveals anything. Just as he's about to explain further, he transforms into a pig again right before her eyes. This finally makes Yang realize that her boss was speaking the truth all along. She marvels at the magic and admits she has never seen people turning into pigs before. Feeling a mix of surprise and determination, she tells Ju that she will keep his secret under one condition. He must agree to 3 demands of hers. She warns that if he refuses, she will expose him immediately. Yang then reveals the conditions. First, he must never shout at her and always praise her for good work in the office. Second, he must not deduct her salary if she arrives late. Third, now that she's his assistant, he must increase her salary. The poor pig looks certainly annoyed, but he has no choice but to agree to her demands. Later at home, Sui Sui shares an idea for a new product launch, electronic firecrackers, which would be pollution-free and safe for everyone. Yang praises her roommate's creativity and suggests she propose the idea to the marketing department. Meanwhile, Ju, in his pig form, is intently listening to their conversation. The following day, he casually presents the idea of launching electronic firecrackers during a meeting. The clients applaud the concept while our heroine is left boiling with anger. After the meeting, she approaches Ju and confronts him about stealing an employee's idea. He responds by explaining that while the idea was indeed Sui Sui's, she couldn't come forward and share it, so he helped her. Later, Yang apologizes to her friend and takes the blame for carelessly sharing her idea. But to her surprise, Sui Sui reveals that she has been promoted to the position of product manager, which was her career goal. She then thanks Yang and calls her a good friend. Upon hearing this, our heroine realizes that Ju isn't a bad person at all, and her perception towards him starts to change. Shortly after, she receives a call from a hotel. The manager asks her to come to room number 302 in Pin House, stating that a VIP client wants to meet her. She inquires about the client's identity, to which the manager reveals that it is Ju's mother. Yang is shocked by the revelation and wonders why the woman wants to meet her, but she guesses it must be important and decides to go to the said location. Upon reaching there, the old woman offers her a sum of 5 million yuan and instructs her to keep it. She explains that the money is to help Yang manage her expenses, particularly those related to Ju's frequent transformation into a pig. Mom further explains that if Yang takes good care of her son, she will offer her the Wuguang Group as a reward. Our heroine is left stunned by the offer and is hesitant to accept it. In response to this, Ju's mother starts recounting the family's history. She reveals that her husband had started a pig farming business out of necessity and became a successful businessman. But one night, after he had killed many wild boars on Nanshan Mountain, an alien pig appeared in front of them and cursed their baby, Ju. This curse causes him to transform into a pig every evening until he turns 27, finds true love, and experiences his first kiss. Only then will he be freed from the curse. The old woman further explains that Ju has always sought true love, but every girl left him upon discovering his secret. She urges Yang to consider loving him to help break the curse once and for all. Later, our heroine returns home with Ju, who is now in his pig form. She tells him about the conversation she had with his mother and agrees to help him out of kindness and a sense of duty. Upon arriving home, Yang encounters an old friend named Tao at her doorstep. She invites him in for dinner, and Tao recounts that during their youth, their parents had jokingly discussed the possibility of arranging their marriage. He further asserts that, if not today, then in the future, he would marry her. However, Yang seems to be uncomfortable by his words. At midnight, Tao awakens and notices her sleeping on the sofa. He gets annoyed upon seeing the pig and comments that it is affecting his girlfriend's rest. He then removes Ju from the room and places him in a bag that is hanging on the balcony. The scene then shifts to morning, where our poor hero is shouting for Yang to open the door. She eventually awakens to the commotion and goes to the doorstep. Tao and Sui Sui, also disturbed by the noise, emerge and question who is knocking so early, but they are both taken aback to see a half-naked man standing outside. Zhu then introduces himself, stating that he's the owner of Dingshan Optoelectronics Company. He asserts that Yang is his assistant, so he has every right to visit her early in the morning. Feeling extremely jealous, Tao counters by claiming that he is Yang's fiancé. He then grabs her hand and insists they should hurry for the picnic date. Our hero decides to come along as well since today's a public holiday. Cut to the next scene. The trio arrives at a forest and Yang very much appreciates the serene surroundings. Meanwhile, Tao labels Zhu as a third wheel and suggests they abandon him. He wants to spend some romantic time with her, and that would be difficult with a creep lurking around. However, Yang vehemently refuses, as she knows Zhu will transform into a pig after 6:30. She fears that he could get lost or even hunted in this dense forest. Shortly after, a group of children nearby asks Tao to film them, and he happily agrees. While he is taking their pictures, Yang approaches him in an attempt to scare him off. She points to the distant mountains and claims that a man is photographing two elderly individuals. Tao doesn't see anything, so he zooms in on the video. Our heroine further insists that the man has just pushed the elderly individuals off the mountain. This scares the poor guy, and he desperately tries to look for the people, but to no avail. Meanwhile, Yang continues her act, saying if a murder were to occur in such a dense forest, it would be extremely difficult to locate the body. Tao is now visibly terrified, and he requests Yang to take over the filming. He then fabricates an urgent reason to leave and quickly runs away from there. Later that evening, we see Zhu and Yang wandering the streets. He soon reverts to his pig form, so she picks him up and returns home. The next day, Yang and Zhu arrive at work and discuss their company's dire financial situation. It turns out they need funds to invest in their new project. Zhu expresses his desire to prevent the company's downfall and ensure the well-being of his employees. He admits feeling burdened by his transformation into a pig and fears it will lead to the company's ruin. In an attempt to lighten up his mood, she suddenly kisses him. This shocks our hero, and he questions her why she did it. Yang explains that she's just trying to help and that a true love kiss might prevent his transformation. However, when his curse does not go away, they conclude that the issue might not be the kiss itself, but the need for genuine love between them. To tackle this problem, Yang suggests they should be in a serious relationship. Zhu also likes the idea, and they agree to be a couple from now on. The following day, she prepares a small date for Zhu at her apartment. When he arrives, they drink wine together, and Yang suggests they praise each other to foster love. She begins by complimenting his handsomeness, independence, hard work, and several other qualities. Yang then asks him to do the same. Zhu nervously starts by calling her kind and complete, but she finds these compliments lacking and calls him a piggy. As he tries to respond, he suddenly transforms back into a pig. At midnight, Yang and her roommate wake up to find the washroom tap broken. Despite their efforts to reduce the water flow, they end up drenching the whole apartment. The next day, Zhu is in a meeting with bankers, who inform him they cannot extend more loans to his company. He then decides to schedule a meeting with the bank's CEO in the afternoon, but they reveal that the CEO only meets people in the evening. This conflicts with Zhu's schedule, as he will be transforming into a pig at that time, but Yang suggests that he arrange the meeting at 5:30 p.m., which will give him enough time to sort things out. The scene then cuts to the meeting, where the CEO, Mr. Wang, shares his proposal. He insists that Zhu's company must improve its performance to qualify for a loan and proposes a reduced amount with a higher interest. As the clock is about to hit 6:30, Zhu excuses himself to the bathroom. Yang then takes this opportunity to show Mr. Wang their latest project and emphasizes its potential. She hopes to secure a loan based on the project's merits and asks the CEO to reconsider. Following this, she excuses herself and meets Zhu outside. Turns out he has already transformed into a pig. She then plans to make it look like he suddenly disappeared and committed suicide. After hiding Zhu, she dramatically calls out his name by the nearby lake, attracting the attention of Mr. Wang and the bankers. They frantically search the lake but find no trace of him. Shortly after, the CEO realizes that Zhu has taken his life and becomes utterly emotional. He then vows to support the company and promises to lower the interest rate if Zhu returns. Meanwhile, Yang secretly records his promise and plans to use it as leverage. The next day, Mr. Wang is shocked to see Zhu alive and questions if he's a ghost. Our hero explains that he accidentally fell into the lake but is unharmed. He then reminds Mr. Wang of his promise while Yang plays the recorded conversation. This annoys the CEO greatly, but he has no choice but to keep his promise and grant the loan. Later, Zhu reveals his plan to improve Yang and Sui Sui's living situation. He takes them to his large house and explains that he lives alone and his family only visits on weekends. Therefore, he offers them the guest houses, hoping to reduce their financial burdens. The girls are delighted with the spacious and well-kept rooms, and they immediately accept the offer. The next day, our couple heads to Huangshan City for an important meeting with foreign clients. The organizer then welcomes Miss Huo from China, prompting both Yang and Zhu to exchange surprised glances. Turns out Miss Huo is his ex-girlfriend and the CEO of their rival company Huingnang Technologies. During Zhu's presentation, she raises a question, noting that her company has already undertaken a similar project as his. Zhu fears that her comment could jeopardize their project. However, Miss Huo unexpectedly praises their work and acknowledges the creativity and potential success of their project in China. After returning from the trip, Zhu instructs Yang to maintain contact with their old clients, regardless of whether they have received any orders. In response, she reveals that Huingnang Technologies has been stealing their clients for the past 6 months. Zhu thanks her for the information and says he will look into the matter. One evening, Miss Huo invites Zhu to a bar for a business meeting. She suggests that he consider collaborating with different clients to meet influential artists and attend exhibitions. Zhu likes the idea and agrees, but he remains focused on his current project. Meanwhile, we see that Huo is trying her best to get close to him and seduce him. This makes our hero nervous, and he discreetly texts Yang to come for help as he's about to transform. Huo gets increasingly clingy by the minute and even starts touching him. She hopes that their cooperation can extend beyond work. Unfortunately, Yang arrives at this moment and misunderstands their closeness. She is so devastated by the sight that she leaves without helping him. When she returns home, she drinks excessively and falls asleep. Our hero shows up a while later and lovingly holds her hand. Yang, in her drunken state, touches his cheek and calls him a stupid pig. She questions why he was out with other girls and unexpectedly reveals her feelings, admitting that she likes him despite his pig transformation. Zhu is stunned by her words and asks her to prove it, and in response, she kisses him passionately. The next day, Yang and Sui Sui watch the news about the cooperation between Dingshan Company and Huingnang. They also learn about the recent engagement between Miss Huo and a famous CEO. This worries Yang, and she assumes that Zhu has gotten engaged to her since they were very close at the restaurant the other night. Meanwhile, Zhu comes out of a celebration party. Feeling relieved and happy, he takes a photo, and Huo abruptly joins in as well. However, Zhu says that he's deleting the pictures to avoid misunderstandings. He then congratulates her as he thinks she's engaged. But Huo clarifies that the ring she wears is related to their professional collaboration, not engagement. She then reminisces about their university days and mentions that he no longer looks at her the same way. In response, Zhu tells her that there's someone in his life who likes him regardless of his condition. Huo instantly realizes that he's talking about Yang and feels deeply hurt. Meanwhile, our heroine is shown angrily packing her belongings. Sui Sui urges her to stop and reconsider, but Yang insists she must leave for Shanghai and find a new job. As night falls, Zhu arrives home and considers knocking on Yang's door, but ultimately decides against it. He instead stands outside her room and thanks her for helping him understand the power of true love. But the next morning at work, he is shocked to learn that Yang has submitted her resignation letter due to personal reasons. In the meantime, Yang arrives in Shanghai and moves into a new house. She starts reminiscing about the good times spent with Zhu, but also feels betrayed as she believes he got engaged to Huo. Yang becomes even more annoyed when she remembers that today is his 27th birthday. Suddenly, she hears a knock at the door. She opens it to find no one, which scares her shitless. But then she looks down and sees a pig, making her realize that it's Zhu. The cute animal is wearing a microphone, and he explains that there has been a misunderstanding. Yang initially thinks she is hallucinating from missing Zhu too much, but the pig reassures her of his presence. He then claims that she's his true love and that he has moved on from Huo. Zhu explains that the engagement ring Huo wore was just a misunderstanding, and their supposed kiss at the restaurant was actually Huo helping him with something in his eye. Upon hearing this, Yang realizes her mistake and kisses the pig, hoping it will transform Zhu back to his human form. However, even when the clock strikes midnight, nothing happens. The pig then guides her to a beautiful garden outside, where Zhu is waiting for her. Turns out the pig is just an ordinary animal, and she kissed it for no reason. Our hero then explains that he has always loved Yang, and that the true love kiss she gave him earlier prevented his transformation. He admits that he was preoccupied with saving his company and couldn't explain everything to her sooner. Confused, Yang asserts that she never kissed him, but Zhu reminds her that she did when she was drunk. He then asks her to return to the company, offering her a promotion and a salary increase. Yang is thrilled by the offer, and she immediately accepts. They then share a passionate kiss and eventually reconcile their relationship. The scene then shifts to Zhu's mother, who is narrating the story to the pet pig from earlier. The show ends with Zhu and Yang happily reuniting and planning their future together.